and welcome to my channel. I'm Thorns and today I'm trying a new style of lore video, which is more chatty, less RPE, I guess. Please let me know in the comments, what do you think about the new format? Love it, loathe it, I value your feedback. So what is it that I want to actually talk about? Well, the next installment of The Living World Season 4 will see the return of an old hero of Tyria, so I thought it would be interesting and perhaps informative to look at their history so far and do a tiny little bit of speculation about what their role might be in future narratives. Now, before I begin, I'm putting a massive spoiler alert warning here, right now, because I'm going to be covering basically all the story of Guild Wars 2, so it's going to be spoilers galore. So if you have not played through the personal story, Season 1, Season 2, Heart of Thorns storyline, Season 3, Path of Fire storyline, Season 4, right up to date, like super right up to date, then please stop watching now, log into the game immediately and correct this egregious oversight. But, then come back because, well, I missed you, and because I want to know what you think about the story too in the comments, where we're going to have a good old chinwag after the video. Anyway, let's just jump in and talk about one of the most polarizing characters in the game's history, Caithe. Caithe of the unique face, Caithe. Oh, most Sylvari players, including me, cried about the fact that you cannot create a character that looks like her in game. It's not available then in vanilla. It's not available now, not even with microtransactions. What's happening? Are money not good enough for you? Oh, anyway, now, for you naughty clickers and cutscene skippers, you cads, there are links in the top right hand corner of the screen to my Sylvari lore playlist, where you will find stories about Ronan, Ventari, the Pale Tree, and the Firstborn. But for those who are wanting a more concise synopsis, and air quotes around the concise, then I'm going to talk about the Sylvari, this Firstborn's life so far, so you might want to sit back and listen a while. So for non-Sylvari players, Sylvari are not born in the traditional sense. They are awakened, fully grown, and imbued with basic knowledge of the world, how it works, how they work, history, that kind of thing. Now, this understanding is gained from the Dream of Dreams, which is kind of like a mindscape of the Pale Tree itself, and also contains the collective consciousness of the entire Sylvari race. If this is all sounding rather like the Tyrian version of the Borg, well, you're not far wrong, and if you don't know who the Borg are, links below. However, Sylvari have free will, and are indeed whole and complete individuals in and of themselves, with strengths and weaknesses and diverging abilities. And the Pale Tree is thankfully not a repressive tyrant hive mind overlord, or the game would be significantly different to what we see today. On the shores of the Tarnished Coast, these strange fruits first saw the rising of the Tyrian sun in 1302 after the Exodus of the Gods, and as one of the first of the 12 Sylvari ever to awaken, Caithe was born into this cycle of night, which makes her inclined to secrecy and stoicism. Now Melomedes, the luminary or mentor or leader of the Nightborn Sylvari, describe his kin as sentinels and scoundrels and mathematicians. Strange crossover, so please let me know where you think Caithe falls on this scale in the comments down below. That should be fun to read. Now, of Caithe's first few years, very little detail is known. All we are told is that she and another firstborn Sylvari, Fowlan, were the first to ever leave the safety of the Grove. Together, they explored their new world, and through their travels and adventures, they fell in love. We are also told that whilst they were travelling on the blighted continent of Or, both Fowlan and Caithe encountered the Nightmare. Now, the Nightmare is the counterpoint to the Dream, so where the Dream represents the collective good, growth and health and selfless virtue, the Nightmare exalts power at any cost, passion without compassion, embracing the darkest primal impulses to violence and reveling in selfish cruelties and obsessions. Caithe recoiled from that calling. Fowlan embraced it. This divergence led to the shattering of their bonds as Fowlan moved ever towards corruption. And as much as Caithe loved Fowlan, and I believe that she did profoundly, she would not or could not lose herself and all she believed in to follow her into the darkness. Although we know that there are times when she was sorely tempted to do so. Now, beyond her ill-fated relationship with Fowlan, Caithe and her firstborn brother Traherne were two of the very first Sylvari tasked with a wild hunt. And my goodness, their hunt was of staggering import. For Caithe was born to end the elder dragon Zaitan, and Traherne was born to cleanse the corrupted lands of all. Now additionally, like the other original companion heroes, Eyre, Logan, Ritlog and Zoja, Caithe had been a member of Destiny's Edge, a broken guild formed to defend against and defeat the dragon's spawn rising on Tyria. Now the story of the guild's rise and fall is chronicled in the book Edge of Destiny. Inside the gaming story, Caithe would try many times to bring her guild back together, always failing, until the player character arrived on the scene. As a Sylvari player, we first meet Caithe in our starting story instance, so soon as character creation happens, she is the first NPC we talk to, in fact. Now Sylvari begin unawakened, literally in the Dream of Dreams, in that mind landscape, where Zventari teaching unawakened Sylvari, which is a wonderful nod to the lore, and much appreciated. Now sadly for us, or happily for the story, the dream is under assault, and the Pale Tree has sent Caithe, or rather an astral kind of projection of Caithe, inside the dream to defend it. So we, the player, are called upon by Caithe to help her defeat the nightmare, which is blocking the way to awakening, and allow more Sylvari to be born into the world. Now by her side, we face down a dragon champion. The dragon champion we will see again further on in the story. Interestingly enough, though, this dragon monster does not break into the dream. We watch as it emerges from the fabric of the dream itself, from the fabric of the reality, breaking the bonds which shackled and subdued it. Which means from day one, from vanilla, from launch, the Lore Masters of ArenaNet had planned for the rising of the jungle dragon, and the Tree Children's place in that story, as tragic and as deep as it was. This cutscene also foreshadows the player character story, for we will go on to be called a Valiant of the Wild Hunt, which is basically a hero of our race called to a special destiny where we must face and defeat the Elder Dragons. In many ways, Sylvari players, I think, get the best story experience of all the races, and I've played all the races and I've played all the stories. And I think it's because the Sylvari were created solely for the newest incarnation of Tyria. Now, it is entirely accurate and true that the other playable races have far older, far deeper lore, which is grounded in the histories that began in prophecies back in 2005. But I think in many ways, this kind of grounding, rooting in the older story holds them back and kind of reduces the scope that the writers had moving into the new game. Whereas Sylvari, they were free to do whatever they wanted. They could weave these characters into the fabric of the game deeply and profoundly, and they did to brilliant effect. Now, thinking about Caithe specifically, from a Sylvari point of view, she falls very much into the archetype of the war-weathered mentor. This persona is maintained during the events of the personal story, with her being the Sylvari player's primary narrative companion, regardless of the options you chose at character creation. So whether you're freeing a lost lover from the grips of the Nightmare Court, or stopping their knights, killing a sacred white stag to corrupt the dream, or defeating a seemingly unstoppable courtier, you always face the Nightmare Court. She is always steadfast at your side, and always facing the court brings her pain. Through these interactions, we discover her ex-lover Fowlin is the leader of the Nightmare Court. And specifically, in the story mode of Twilight Arbor, we hear what Caithe has to say about her old flame. And here is quite a poignant line. "The creature she has become. But I remember what she was at the very beginning. She was the sun to my stars." Now, Caithe's loss, the betrayal she experiences, go a long way to grounding and humanizing, deepening her character. And I worried for her genuinely, because in literary terms, star-crossed lovers tend to have very tragic ends. Now, her character continues to be the faithful companion of the player right through the entirety of the personal story to its climactic finale in the ruins of Arra. And it's not until the arrival of Scarlet Briar in Season 1 when we start to see the bloom fall off this particular rose. And specifically, the darkening of her character begins on the Aether path of the Twilight Arbor, where Caithe is pursuing Scarlet Briar into her secret base. Now, Briar is taunting Caithe. She is obviously trying to capture the firstborn for some nefarious reason or other. But what's most interesting about it is the bait she used. Because I ask you, how nasty would a secret have to be that you would risk your life to keep it hidden? And that is all Scarlet had. A nasty little secret that not even Fowlin knew about. And we had to wait until we were well into the back end of Season 2 for the fruits of that particular seed to become ripe and discovered what Caithe had so desperately been hiding. Now, Guild Wars 2, unlike its predecessor, had a reputation for being a bit fluffy kittens when it comes to storytelling. And I think Season 2 is the turning point, dispelling that kind of nebulous, nothing storytelling that the game kind of suffered from a little bit in the beginning. Because in a matter of moments, the player discovers that all Sylvari are dragon minions, that the Pale Tree is the dragon champion that has been freed, that Fowlin is a murderous torturer, and that Caithe is capable of anything as she murders Wynne, her own sister of the Night Cycle. And as we are still reeling from that cornucopia of groin shots, Caithe betrays us. She steals Glint's egg and spirits it away into ether, and Caithe, transformed from the faithful lapdog, companion, mentor, to a murderous betrayer in a matter of days, really. And as a Sylvari player, I was kind of floored by these revelations and fairly fearful for my character as we headed into Heart of Thorns, and rightly so, because a major theme of that story was the call of Mordremoth, and another betrayal, but this time en masse. Countless Sylvari turning on their packed comrades, answering the call of the Jungle Dragon. And I was kind of worried what was going to happen with my character with that. And I think they did it rather well, but I won't spoil that. If you want to play through the Sylvari story, it's well worth playing through as a Sylvari for Heart of Thorns. You get a lot of interesting dialogue, you get achievements associated with all different bits. It's very good. It's very good. You should try it. For the first half of the Heart of Thorns story, we are in pursuit of our captured companions and Caithe through the wreckage of the fallen packed fleet and right into Auric Basin, where we almost come full circle when we find Caithe and are forced to flee from the monstrous thing that used to be Fowlin. Now, many players, including myself, thought Caithe deceived and abandoned us in the Silver Waste because her mind had been corrupted by Mordremoth, much like Scarlet Briar's had, much as Ciara's had. But in truth, the only person she truly trusted at this point in her life was herself, and it was easier for her to forsake her friends, to run away, than to risk further betrayal. Now, after we retrieve the egg, Caithe disappears from the story, but unbeknownst to us, the player character, she is actually tracking us all the way from Turia right to the endgame of the story in Dragonstand. Now, she reveals herself to the group, begs us to allow her to aid in the final push to free Logan, Zoja and Traherne Mordor must be up to now. And depending on what your choices are, who you've picked to go into that fight, Caithe can be at your side when you take down Mordemoth. Even this action does not quiet the fears of your character or their companions. She has really just pooped the bed at this point to a staggering degree, and nobody trusts her. So that's the ending of Heart of Thorns, and now we're moving into Living World Season 3, and she pops up again, this time in Bloodstone Fen, where she's still trying to explain her actions to you, a friend who she's betrayed, and you want nothing more than to keep her at arm's length. Now, after the birth of Aurene, Caithe does commit to watching over the scion of Glint, and I personally think it's a play for redemption, but I also think it's a genuine desire to do the right thing. I think she's never not tried to do the right thing. I just think she's had terrible life choices. I can totally relate to that. Now we're heading into the endgame, so to speak, with the Path of Fire story and Caithe being literally nowhere to be seen, apparently keeping her word and remaining in Tyria and protecting her dragon charge. That is until, of course, the death of Vash, which sparks a chain of events, including the confrontation between Balthazar and your character, that leads to Aurene abandoning her guardians, fleeing the Golden City, and heading to try and save us. And now we're in Season 4. It is the 28th of November today, and she's back, and she wants to help Aurene and you prepare. She has things that she wants to say. And now I'm going to put another spoiler warning here, because if you're up to date with Season 4 of The Living World, you may not be quite as up to date as you thought you were. So, depending on when you're watching this video, you might want to pop back to Sun's Refuge and check your mail, because just check your mail. Because Caithe sends you a piece of mail saying that she wants to talk to you, she wants to help. And then in the little chat that you have with her, she wants to see if there are any secrets of Glint out there. And there is one brotherhood that she thinks can help. Now, if you're an old lore hound like me, you'll know the brotherhood she's talking about from the original campaigns. So, which brotherhood is it? Well, that shaman gave a little bit of a hint for it on his Twitter. If you don't follow him on Twitter, you really should. Now, it is the Dwarven Brotherhood of the Dragon. And there are two dwarves I know still kicking about on Tyria. Roban in the Fire Islands, and Ogden Stonehealer, who is a high-ranking member of the Priory. So it seems fairly likely to me that we will be visiting one or both of these gentlefolk in the not-too-distant future. And, oh my goodness, perhaps even plumbing the depths of Tyria, searching for lost relics and lore tomes. Oh, say it so. For the dwarves build great cities in the deep places of the world. I genuinely have high hopes for where the lore team could lead us on this little secret-finding expedition. But back to Caithe. Her underlying theme now is redemption. She wants to do the right thing. She wants to redeem herself in the eyes of the Pact Commander, her friend. And if you're a Sylvari, you're also to her a child almost that she helped bring into the world, that she adventured with, that she fought side by side with. So redeeming herself in your eyes, very important. And I also think it's interesting that she is again associated with secrets, lost secrets, hidden secrets, finding secrets, secret brotherhood societies that probably 90% of the player base have absolutely no idea about. So yeah, it's certainly been an interesting journey for this character. And that's my not so brief history of Caithe. And now I guess we can do a little bit of speculation. And I am generally terrible at speculation, and nothing I've ever predicted has ever come true, so take this all with a pinch of salt, but I'll give it my best guess. So I think it's likely that as the story moves forward, the writers will want to tie up loose ends before they embark on Season 5. And I think poor old Caithe could be one of those loose ends. There is scope, I think, for some sort of grand gesture on her part. perhaps to save Aureen, perhaps to save Timey. Because honestly, in literary terms, the path to redemption for a betrayer always leads to some form of painful self-sacrifice. So, if you like Caithe, worry for her. But that's my theory, so let me know what you think the fate of Caithe will be in the comments below. Many people think that she'll just fade into obscurity again. So, let's have a little bit of a talk about what I think is going to happen in the story going forward, or rather, what I hope doesn't happen. So I think there's a distinct possibility, very much like Tyria, that there are plans within plans that Glint has laid in wait for the player character. But what I desperately don't want to happen is another out of the blue solution, similar to what happened at the end of Heart of Thorns. Nor do I want Timey, as brilliant and beautiful and sweet as she is, to solve all our problems. Because above all, I want to feel like my character has agency and impact. So I'm desperately, as Wood and Potatoes would put it, I want to avoid the Deus Ex Machina story device, which is where a complex and seemingly unsolvable challenge is overcome in some out-of-the-blue, contrived manner. I genuinely want to feel that we, the player character, and our team of NPCs have earned the payoff. We have actually earned the win. I don't want to be gifted it. I don't want it to be granted to me by some strange sleight of hand. I want to earn it. And thinking back to the personal story, I'm thinking about as we built up Pact, we recruited NPCs, we worked through problems, we made choices, we built up our forces, we chipped away at Zaitun's, at his ability to harvest power. We did all sorts of things, step by step, to get to the point where we could attack. Now there was of course the arrival of the glory of Tyria. That was a little bit out of the blue. It was a gigantic, big, shiny ship which was summarily executed in Heart of Thorns, I must say, but I mean, I think that fit with the story progression. But I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that kind of linear progression is not the way ahead. Perhaps there's a better way, a more imaginative but meaningful way to give us a conclusion to our current story arc, which will be more rewarding. Let me know what you think in the comments, and I will join you down there so we can have a jolly good chinwag about it all. Now, I think that I have talked enough. I'm going a bit hoarse now, so I'm going to end my rambling nonsense. And if you did actually enjoy this video and want to see more like it on the channel, please like, comment, talk about it. And if enough people respond and give me some good positive feedback, I will make more content like this in the future. It's rather fun to just sit here with some notes and talk and ramble about the lore and the game that I love. And in the unlikely event that you feel inspired by my ramblings instead of brain dead from listening to it, there are referral links below to the free-to-play game, the Heart of Thorns expansion, and the Path of Fire expansion, all including Caithe. Caithe comes like a cherry on the top of them. And if you use the referral links, you not only get to play with Caithe, you also get to help my channel financially, because I'm a proud affiliate of their partner program. And goodness me, I need all the help I can get. Now I want to say a massive, big thank you to Moliny, Ada, Hain, Jolly Joestar, Dark Griever, and all my wondrous, fantabulous, brilliant patrons. Because without them, honestly, I wouldn't be able to do any of this. I wouldn't be able to quit the time, energy, effort, resources, none of it. I couldn't do it without them, because YouTube hates me, but they don't, so that's good. And I also want to thank you, my magnificent viewer. Just you, sat there with your cup of tea. Thank you for watching, I appreciate it. And I invite you to join me again for more lore fun, but until then, as always, thanks for watching.